Hey everybody, Mike Pearl here from the National Tech Team. In this video I want to go through the actual technical process of approving an email automation record for it to go out, as well as the views and the charts that we've built to try to help you find these, as well as some cleanup items on the back end, just because we have a lot of test records that we want to clean up, and so I just want to show you one of the ways that you can do that. So to start with, the left-hand nav menu should have an email automation option. If you click that, there are a number of system views. I believe the active email automation view is the default, but you can change the default by just clicking the pin on any of these. But we also expect that the system views will get you close, and then you can make whatever adjustments you want, save that as your own personal view, and that would probably ultimately be what you end up looking at. We elected early on to not send an email to the approvers to tell them that there's an email here waiting to be approved so it can be sent. And so right now, the approvers are reliant upon the views and the charts and basically going there every so often to see if there's anything sitting there for you to approve or not. So going through the views, active email automation has everything in the system that's currently active, who made it, what geo area that person's in, what branch that person's in. You can hover over the email body, for example, if you wanted to see a little glimpse of what it looks like without having to drill in. You should be able to hover over any of this stuff. The next one down is the approver email automation record view, and this is automatically rigged to show you only the stuff created by the people that are in the same branch as you as an approver. So there's some finagling behind the scenes that basically says, is the automation record waiting for approval, like ready for approval, and then is the user that made it in the same branch as the user that's now looking at this page. So as an approver, you'll only see the ones that are ready for you to approve there. Now you may choose to further break it down either by one geo area or the type of communication. If you have multiple approvers in the same branch, maybe one person's looking at certain things and someone else is looking at other things. That's totally up to you guys to decide. We also have for the creator of the email automation record a view of all your active ones as well as all your inactive ones. And in this case, inactive could have been because it's published or because it got rejected. Either way, it's inactive, which just means that it's no longer editable. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So then we have two views here. These are all the inactive records across the entire system geographically, as well as all the users that for one reason or another never got sent. So they could have been denied or declined or rejected, or they could have expired because now it's too late, or they're just kind of they were hanging out in draft and somebody decided to finally clean them up. So for whatever reason, if they were not published, they are inactive and not sent or published. And of course, the ones that did get sent out are also going to be inactive just because that's the way the system's designed, just to help keep the records clean. But in this case, all of them got published and actually did go out to their relative audiences. So these are the system views that are built in by default. Again, we expect that you would make some changes either with this advanced filtering panel. You can add, remove different criteria, and then save it with the button up here for save as. Or you can use advanced find, start from here, and then add whatever you want, save it as your own personal view. And then again, this button here would allow you to make that the default. And let's talk about the charts that we built in as well. So we've got three different system charts. One is by branch, one is by status, and one is by type of communication. And these work hand in hand with the views in place. So for example, if we look at active email automation, we've got 31 records. This should add up to 31-ish. If we were to switch it to a different view, then the chart that you have out at the moment will also dynamically update. So don't let that throw you. The charts are independent of the view, but the combination of the two is what will show you the information that you're potentially looking for. So the good thing about charts is as you click into the blue area, it's going to automatically adjust the rows that you see over here on the right hand side. And it's also going to ask if you want to drill down any further for any other piece of information that's in here. So if we wanted to look at anything that's in the west and we want to further break it down by status reason, for example, we can select status reason as the thing we want to drill down by, and then we can pick any of the different types of charts. So for fun, I'll do a bar chart. or sorry, a pie chart. So we're still looking at West only. It's still these records, but it's just a visual representation of whatever you happen to be looking at. All right, so enough about charts and views. Let's actually get into approving something. So in the previous video, I created an Advanced Sawyer 1 call to action for the Seattle area. So if we drill down into it, as an approver, we'll talk about a few of these fields from the approver point of view. Now, I don't want to get too specific about do's and don'ts and best practices and all that kind of stuff, because that should be in the email automation guidance page that we talked about earlier, and we'll link again right here. But the number one thing we want to make sure everyone's aware of as an approver is that it's your fault if something goes out that is not good. So the creators of the email automation records are going to put in whatever they put in, but it's not going to get sent until if and when you choose to approve it and send it. So as the approver, you have to really double check that the audience is accurate. We don't have, accidental people in here that didn't need to be in there. The reason for the sending of the email is in line with the rest of the organization's policies, etc. All right, so that being said, the things to look at for the approver, of course, are the type of communication, the description of the recipients. Do these people in this list match up with the description and the purpose of this email? And to help with some of that, you also have the ability, right now we just look at the active contact view of the recipients, but really any other view that you have in the contact entity should be available to you as well. If you want to see some of the qualifications, for example, like this is about Advanced Sawyer 1, and so you might want to change it to the volunteer qualification one to see, are we actually sending it to people that don't have AS1? So in theory, we should not have anybody here that has a yes, right? Just to double check that the audience is accurate. You also obviously need to double check the from and the reply to address, make sure that this is suitable. And if it's not the original creator, make sure that they're authorized to send it on behalf of either some other distribution list or shared inbox or an actual different person. Does the start time make sense, and is it in line with best practices as to when somebody would, get an email and the chances that they'll open it? Is the time zone accurate? Because the back-end marketing system is going to look at all this and determine when to actually send the email based on the information that's in here. Is the subject line appropriate? Is the content itself appropriate? You have the ability to make whatever changes you want in here. So again, you can expand it. You can use all the same tools in the rich text editor to make whatever changes you want, and then basically hit save. You should not have to worry about anything in the admin, but just for training purposes, we have to make sure that there is a template in here and this will all get hidden or locked down. Make sure that the suppression segment is there. So this is what allows us to send it to people, and anybody who has opted out of getting any type of commercial email. As long as the suppression segment's in there, then they will also not get this one, which is good. That's what we want. So if they've opted out, they won't get anything that's considered commercial. So if all that looks good, then your three remaining options are up at the top. So do not send essentially will kill this record as it stands. It will immediately deactivate it. There's no chance for anybody to make any changes or anything like that. So if the purpose of this was way out in left field, or the recipient list is obviously totally incorrect, or for whatever reason, you can just hit do not send, and that's the end of this record as we know it. If you do that, my recommendation is that you also write a note so that later on people would know why that occurred. If you approve it, we'll talk about that in a second. The third option is to reject it. If you reject it, then what happens is you would want to write a note first and then hit reject, and it will send it back to the original owner with your note to say, it's rejected because you need to update the audience, add or remove people, like you're missing somebody, etc. Or the content itself needs to change, and here's what I recommend, that kind of thing. So you can reject it back to the original creator. Or if you hit approve, then you'll have an option here. We have to make sure we don't actually send this for training purposes, but You have the option of either, if you hit OK, it's going to automatically prep it for sending, and then it's going to send at the correct date and time that is in the record here. Or if the date was in the past, then it will basically send it as soon as the marketing module gets to it. So there's lots of things happening behind the scenes where it's creating a customer journey, it's creating a marketing email, it's creating the segment of the people that it's going to go to, and all that stuff takes 5 or 10 minutes. Once the system decides to start it. So sending won't be immediate, but it will be as close to immediate as we can get to. Now if you hit cancel, then it's going to be reassigned back to the creator of the record, and they'll have a new button up here that says publish, which allows them to kind of pull the trigger, and now that it's approved, they can go hit publish whenever they want, and that's when it will send. Or at least that's when it will cue the process to either go by the date that's in there in the future, or if it's in the past, it will start the process to get that sent. So I'm going to hit cancel here, and just to make sure this doesn't actually go out, I'm going to go ahead and hit the do not send button. That's going to kill this one altogether and mark it as an active email automation record. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about a little bit of cleanup, because we've been testing this for a while, and now it's time to clean up some of these records. Or in the future, as people are watching this, if there are things that are obviously never going to be sent, then there's a couple different ways that we can take care of that. So I'm going to pick on some of these old records that are in here. Lots of test records in here. So if we click something, most people that are approvers should have the ability to deactivate. You can also go into the record itself and hit do not send, and that's going to basically deactivate it immediately as well. And as you're going through your views, if you have stuff in your area that is either it's well beyond the point that the data is worthwhile, like in this case, this was I don't know if this was a test, but it was basically an email to a subset of people that says, hey, your rally point got changed. So it was an update for an operational event. We're well past February 20th at this point, and so this is another one that can be deactivated, or click into it and hit do not send. If you want to add a note, hit do not send. So that is how to clean up the records. And at the end of the day, what we'd like to see are true drafts, as well as for the active ones, like things that are actually being worked on, and of course for the approver reviews, things that aren't a month past due, so we can get rid of all that stuff as well. So that's it for this video. There'll be one other video in this series to talk a little bit more about how to create views for the email automation records for the recipient lists. I'll go through a few different examples, so be on the lookout for that video as well, and see you there.